Hey there and welcome to No Recipe Required. So pesto is one of my all-time favorite sauces, and tonight I'm going to show you how to do a really simple dish, chicken pesto pasta. You know, the chicken obviously is great protein, makes it nice and substantial, and the flavors are absolutely awesome, and it's really super easy to make. Let's go ahead and get started.
I'm going to go ahead and show you how to blanch basil. Now this is what we're going to use for our pesto, but you know, blanching is a technique that we should all learn, pick up. Here I've obviously got a big bunch of herbs, and you can do this with a bunch of different herbs. I've got a pot of boiling salted water, and literally you just drop that right in there, give it a little stir, and what the blanching is going to do, it's actually going to cook the leaves. And believe it or not, although it's sitting in water, the blanching or the cooking is actually going to draw water out of the cells of the basil and really just kind of concentrate the flavor, break down those the cell structures, and give it or take away some of that raw taste. It really only takes, you know, 35 to 50 or so seconds, definitely under a minute, to do a blanch like this, provided you got the water nice and hot, which you should do. And then once you get it done, we're going to remove it, strain it, and then run it under ice cold water to really set that bright green color. If you just kind of take it out, it'll turn a dull kind of you know, military green, puke green, which isn't any good. All right, let's go ahead and make our basil. I've got my my blanched spinach right here. I'm just going to you know, actually I don't even need to drop it up or chop it up. You can kind of tear it up a little bit. If you got some of the thicker stems, you know, beating those up a little might help a little bit. But you don't need to do a whole lot to it. I've also got my my toasted pine nuts. I'm going to use, what is that, half a handful, probably a tablespoon and a half, at least to start with. I've got a few in reserve. I'm also going to add some Parmesan cheese. This is again probably 2 good tablespoons there, and then we'll hit it with some olive oil, a good amount. So the olive oil plus a little bit of water is going to provide the blender with enough liquid to actually spin and really combine all these ingredients. We also want to season a little bit with salt and with pepper. And then I also like to add just a little bit of lemon juice to mine. You know, really half a teaspoon or so. Certainly to start with. You're not looking for obviously a lemon tasting sauce, but I find the acid from the lemon helps keep everything a little bit greener, and I also like the brightness that the acidity gives the pesto. So I'm going to go ahead and start pulsing this, and let everything just kind of come together and form that nice paste. Once it does, we'll come back and take a look. Okay, so we've gotten a nice little grate down. Now, first thing you want to do, you may have to scrape down the sides if you find it sticking around, but you want to give it a little taste. See if it needs anything. This actually, it tastes pretty good as it is. I don't know if you noticed when I stirred up, I actually think this this pesto is a little bit looser than what I would normally expect. I must have you know, just put in a little bit extra water, but you know, not a huge deal. We can deal with that. One, it'll still be great if you use it as is. Two, if you add a few more nuts and maybe a little bit more cheese, that will that'll help thicken it up. And finally, when I tasted it, it was great, but I found it could use still a little bit more of that bite, a little bit more acid. So I'm going to touch it up with a little more lemon, and then we're going to go ahead and just blend it up again. Okay, pesto is done. You want to, of course, give it another taste. Make sure it meets your approval. This one does. So, as I said in the beginning, I messed up on my basil. I forgot to add any garlic. Now, normally I would chop a clove of garlic, throw it in the blender, blend it all together. That obviously gives a nice garlicky flavor to the dish. But since I forgot it, what are you going to do? You can do a couple things. One, forget it. Just go ahead and serve it as is. It'll still be delicious. Option two, we know how to mince garlic. That's on the site as well. I've just got a clove here that I finely minced, and just put it in afterwards. You know, you can even add this back to your blender, throw in a clove of garlic and get it in there. I've already put the blender away, so, you know, don't worry about it. Don't tell anybody. Nobody's gonna know other than you. It'll be totally fine. Once our pesto is made, everything becomes really easy. I got some penne. Obviously, gonna throw it in some boiling salted water. Give it a quick stir, like I do all pastas, to make sure they don't stick together, and just cook these to a nice al dente texture. So I just drained off my pasta, and I've got some chicken that I'm going to throw into a pan with a little bit of olive oil. Now, my chicken is leftover chicken that I just took out of the fridge, diced up. So I'm going to throw this in just to heat it up so it doesn't really cool anything down. And it's certainly in a hot pan. Doesn't really take long, 20, 30 seconds. Not a big deal. Once it's in there though, once it's there, we're going to add the pasta back and season everything up, finish our pesto. Okay, it's literally been just 30 seconds because remember our chicken was already cooked. I'm going to add in my pasta that I just drained off and toss that around. I'm going to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I'm just going to turn the heat off. And I've got our pesto that we made earlier, and I'm just going to add that directly in, and then toss the pesto with the chicken. So it doesn't take too much, and I don't want to cook the pesto for very long. It's like a kind of an uncooked pasta sauce itself. You want to make sure it is nicely coated, and once it is, you want to make sure you give your pasta, your noodle, a taste, to make sure the seasoning is on. This one can use just a touch more salt, pepper, and then we're going to plate it up. So here is our pesto chicken with penne pasta. It's an absolutely killer dish and really easy to make, especially if you keep some of that pesto in the freezer, and then you can just pull it out and literally have dinner in the time it takes to make the pasta. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.